What's up, Ranger fans? Welcome to another edition of Rink Wrap right here on Forever Blueshirts. I'm Jim Cerny. This week, very cool to hang out with the guy who I spent a few hours with in press boxes around the NHL over the years, Russ Cohen from Sportsology. Russ, thanks for a few minutes today.
Anytime, Jim.
So we got rookie camp coming up this week. Rookies mean prospects. Prospects means Russ. You're all about it, for decades now. You've been covering, the prospect
Long
scene
time.
in the NHL. A lot of Rangers, a lot of Metropolitan Division. You also cover the Flyers, of course, closely.
Yeah.
But let's start with rookie camp this week. They open up Wednesday. Rangers and Flyers are going to play a couple rookie games as they do every year now on Friday and Saturday at Lehigh Valley. So we'll kind of get into all that from the Rangers side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking Ranger rookies, you got to start with Gabe Perreault, who you caught up with at the rookie showcase last week too, and appreciate your help on that for us at Forever Blueshirts. Just a quick overview before we tunnel down into Gabe Perreault. Gabe Perreault, 20 years old, starring college star everywhere he's been. Is he NHL ready, you think, right now at age 20, 5 games of NHL experience under your belt? Or what do you need to see from him, not only in rookie camp, but mainly in training camp to show you that he's ready for the NHL?
Yeah, so it's interesting with Gabe because even in his draft year, trying to figure it out, the NCDP never had him play away from his line mates. And he was with those guys forever. Like, I think I saw 2 shifts with Gabe Perreault with other line mates. That's how crazy it was, right? So it made it a little harder to kind of figure out where he was at. So I was at one of the games where he played last year against the Devils. And it was interesting because I thought he, looked like he belonged to some degree, but I was like, something's not exactly right. I knew he wasn't strong enough because I saw that he couldn't power through just to get the puck where he needed it to be. Guys could stand him up, those kinds of things. But I was in between periods. I was next to a longtime scout. And I mean long time. And the scout asked me, what did you think of Perreault? And I said, and he goes, what I noticed is he was late to getting to the puck. And usually what that means for me as a prospect guy is he's thinking too much. He has to think when he's out there. And Gabe Perreault at the other levels did not have to think when he was out there. And that's when he was most creative and could really, make some great plays. So I think even though he looks stronger, there's no question he's 5 to 7 pounds heavier muscle. I saw it. Some Ranger fans always go, oh, yeah, we've heard this before. Hey, I'm just reporting what I see, guys. That's it. But it's the brain that really has to get to the other part. Because I think physicality-wise, he'll be better than last year. He's still not going to be where he's going to be at in 2-3 years for that. But it's the brain. It's the processing. Can he think it as fast as he wants to be able to be effective? Because, he is a guy that doesn't really have great defensive skills or a heavy forecheck or anything. So for those other things, he has to be able to work at top speed. And so that's the question. So if he doesn't do that in the preseason where it's, let's face it, it's NHL like half speed, but if he isn't really contributing for that, he should go down. He should go down to Hartford and at least play a half a season. If he's dominating down there in a half a season, bring him up by all means, but don't take away the time that he may need to still kind of, because again, I think people sometimes don't realize the AHL is a lot harder than it used to be. There's a lot more talented prospects down there. The level of competition in the AHL has increased over the last 5 years. So it's not like, hey, you're going to Hartford and the AHL kind of stinks. No. He would go down and develop.
Yeah. And I think in my, back and forths and on social media and what have you with the fans, and nobody wants to see this guy go to Hartford. And I get it. You always want that next guy, that first round pick, the guy that you think is going to be the stud, to just go from wherever it is, junior or college, straight into the NHL. And if it happens, great. If he's in a good situation, great. If he can keep up, if he can contribute, great. But if not, it's okay. He's 20 years old.
Right.
Like you said, whether it's a half season, whether it's a full season, it's not a knock on the player.
No.
He grows physically, he grows mentally, and maybe then he's better prepared for the NHL game. Not saying that that's what's going to happen. We'll find out. We'll see when we see. But it's not the negative that I think a lot of fans view it to be.
Right. And I think that's the key. I mean, he's determined. He wants to make the club. He's done everything he needs to do over the summer. Now it's kind of like, hey, will it all click when it matters? I mean, I just go back to like Shane Wright. Remember what happened in his draft year? Yeah. He goes to Coachella. First he didn't play much, right? When they decided not to send him down, right? So he had that 9 games that they stretched out. Then he went to the World Juniors. Then he went back. Then, because, there was no other way at that point. There still is no other way till next year, which a lot of people jumped the gun on, but there isn't, right? So, so then he basically played in Coachella, ends up winning a championship in Coachella, has a real good year last year. A little bit older, a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser. I think Perreault might need to go through the same thing, and that's okay.
Again, we'll see. We'll know when we know. We'll see what we see.
Yeah.
I didn't think he looked out of place last year, but I love how you kind of built that. He was just, or your observation that he was just a little slow. And the book on him is that IQ wise, hockey IQ wise, the way he thinks the game, he's a step ahead.
Right.
So to come to the NHL and say, boy, he looked a step slow.
Yeah.
Do you think that was more of the mental thing? Maybe just thinking too much, or is it the physical game, the things that some scouts have concerns about, not only about his size, but maybe even more so about his foot speed or lack thereof, that maybe made him look a little bit slow? Or is it all just part and parcel of a kid just out of college playing his first couple NHL games?
I mean, no, his foot speed's better. I think his foot speed is good now. So I don't think that is the issue. I do think when you have to think out there and you have to try and power through guys to kind of make that play, I think that was taking the stuffing out of him. And so I think that's what he has to get past, are those things. Like, look, even Ryan Leonard did not light up the NHL at all when he came in.
Right.
And Leonard's got the physical game. And
right.
And still he was struggling to score. It's a hard league. It's the hardest league in the world for a reason. So I know everybody is probably thinking like, hey, if he doesn't make it at 20, oh no, we got another problem on our. No, just let him take his course, give it time. I was going to say Alexei Lafreniere, and the thing I would say about that is that was only a small function of him and a large function of not keeping the kid line together, bouncing him up and down. If you look at his game now, like Lafreniere, he has a terrific forecheck. Actually, he's a guy that's a real good puck possession guy, and still, if he's around the net, can definitely score. And I think the scoring will go up. It's not going to be superstar off the chart scoring. Like, his game has changed, but I think it's changed for the better for him to stay in the NHL for a long time and not to try and be this super high scorer. Now, if you want to say, hey, where he was picked, he's going to be a little disappointing. Okay, but I just look at how many games a guy plays, and I still think his metamorphosis has been really good despite the Rangers on that, because I do feel like the bouncing up and down, different line mates, different things, not getting power play, getting all those things have an effect on a young player.
So perfect segue into Perreault. I've written this many times in different stories over the summer. To me, if he stays, don't they have to find a spot in the top 6 for him? Doesn't he need to play with that level player as opposed to, and no knock, these are NHL players, but Johnny Brodzinski and Taylor Radish on the third line? Doesn't he need to be more amongst the, that top 6 player? Because that's what he is. He's a skill guy.
I mean, that is the ultimate way you'd want to do it. But the one thing I'll say about Brodzinski, and I've covered his brother too, who was here in Philly, like, those guys overachieve, and they do make things happen on the ice, like to help out their line mates. So if he started with that, it's not the worst thing in the world. Is his offense going to be as good as it can be? No. But those other parts of the game probably come around because, it's a good, smart line mates. I mean, the Rangers, the funny thing about them is the bottom 6 is where they drop off, and the top 6 is kind of what they're okay at.
Yeah.
So I think in this case, he probably does have to work his way up into it.
Okay. Yeah. But my theory on if he played in the top 6 would be you balance things out a little bit by putting Will Cooley on the third line, maybe getting some,
do that.
Assuming, again, we're making a lot of assumptions here. if Mika is also on the wing as opposed to center.
Well, I think he is. I think that's pretty set. And Sullivan, listen, I know a lot about Mike Sullivan, not because of his previous Ranger stuff, but I always cover the USHL Fall Classic, right? And for as long as he was the Penguins coach, I watched a lot of Penguins practices. I'm not a big practice guy, but they're right there. And they're on the other rink. And if it's in between games, I'm watching. And so I kind of have an idea of what Sullivan does. And Sullivan can bring along young players. That's not his specialty, but he doesn't hurt them. And so Sullivan will definitely be a really good coach, even if it's just for preseason, for Gabe to kind of understand what he's going to need to do. Like, there's no mixed messages. It's not like John Tortorella. It's not like you have to decipher what he wants. No, you'll know exactly what he wants, and he wants fast. Like, Sullivan wants his team to play fast. There's no question. And I think Perreault can do that. And so, like, if it's a matter of, starting him on the third line, I don't think that's bad.
Right. So obviously he's not the only kid. He's not the only kid that's going to be in rookie camp, certainly in training camp. And looking ahead to training camp, you would think Brennan Othman, Brett Berard, they're a couple steps ahead. They've been pros for a couple of years.
Yep.
Both of them are a little bit more physically developed, more into their man's body than a boy's body. That said, which of those two, or which of those three, if you include Perreault in the mix, or which two of those three, because I don't think all three are going to make the team.
No, I agree with that.
So who do you think comes out of the mix here? And of course, we're guessing because we haven't seen a practice. We haven't seen a preseason game yet.
Right.
And who do you think and a new coach. So I know you mentioned the speed, big factor for Sully. Obviously, it plays to Berard's angle. So again, anyway, big wind-up, big question. Those seem to be the three guys maybe fighting for, at most, 2 spots. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I think Berard will make it. I think because he has other things that he can do. He does forecheck. He does play hard. He is fast, and he will occasionally score. But he's like a guts kind of guy, and one of those guys that is a definite plus for a team because he's a spark plug. Like, for what was it, a month and a half when the Rangers really sagged last year, he was good.
Yeah.
Like, he was that spark plug when he was in there, that he would do that. And I think he would still do that now, starting from scratch, with a new coach starting a season. So I think Berard's in there. Othman's been a little weird in the sense that the power game hasn't really come along with any kind of scoring. And I think we all kind of expected more scoring. So it's kind of like, is it the speed? It might be. I'm not sure he's gotten enough speed yet. Now, I don't know what he looks like now over the summer, and maybe that's fixed. But from what I saw last year, I think he's going to struggle to make the team. Now, if he got faster, then I think Sullivan will find a role for him because he does do all those other things, and maybe he'll put him with the right line mate, and maybe he'll start scoring a bit. But I have to admit, he was disappointing last year.
Yeah. So it's interesting because with Perreault, we said, hey, don't sweat it. It's not a terrible thing if he goes back to Hartford. But does it become a bigger story or a bigger deal if Othman goes down for the 3rd straight season to start the season in Hartford?
Well, to be really honest about it, I think they should have traded Othman last year while the bar was still higher, because now if he does get sent down, like you said, then his value goes down, right?
Yeah.
Where last year it wasn't going to go down. It would be somebody else's worry that, hey, we'll get him up to speed. So I think that does affect things a little bit. But at this point, you can't worry about it now. So if he goes down, he goes down, and it'll be for the best. But will there be a worry about him? Yeah, I think so.
It's interesting. Like in baseball, a lot of times you got, a guy hits it at AAA.
Yep.
Never quite breaks through in MLB. And, we call them a 4A player.
Yep.
I guess right now we're kind of in that spot, and still there's plenty of time. He's 22, turns 23 this year. But I guess the fear, if you're the Rangers, is, he might be a 4A player, but he could also show us otherwise this year. But I think that's the fear, the underlying fear with Othman.
Yeah. When I first started covering, I was always a hockey fan, but when I first started covering, and I started covering the Rangers first, and I can't remember his correct name. Maybe you'll remember it, but they had that guy Shooter. Remember, he would come up, he scored a lot of goals in Hartford, and he would come up and he barely would score, and his nickname was Shooter. And yeah, and so I don't know, it's a situation like that, but I think Othman kind of has to like prove he could score a bit. He did score fairly well at the AHL level, but not good enough. Not good enough. Like, he wasn't a point per game, and if you're not a point per game down there, it is hard to find an NHL job. Let's be real.
Yeah, he had 21 goals as a rookie pro, and then of course last year, he did lose 2 months as well. He had the injury early on. He actually got off to, kind of a roaring start in Hartford, and then the next 2 months he was sidelined, and then found his game again, and then he was up in the NHL. But totally get
Brad Smith. Brad Smith had the nickname of Shooter.
Smith, man, do you bring up a name right there?
And he scored a lot of goals. Go look up his numbers. But he couldn't score them with the Rangers.
I was going to say, not with the Rangers, he didn't.
But that does happen. He, to me, in my mind, still is the quintessential, quadruple A guy that just can't get up in the NHL. I'm going to look it up. I think he had like 60 goals one year.
60 goals in the minors. Wow, I don't remember that.
With the Carolina Monarchs, he had 68 goals. 68 goals. And then even with Hartford, 29, 25, 50. He had 50 goals in 2000, 2001. And that's when I remembered, I was like starting to hear about him again. 50, 34. Yeah. And he came up with the Rangers. He had 1 goal in 4 games, but he just didn't click. And they needed him. Back then, they weren't good.
Yeah. Not at all.
But he had 50 with Hartford, but he had 60 something before that. That's a lot of goals.
That's a lot of goals. Well, Brendan Othman had 21. Let's see what he is. He certainly has the pedigree, first round pick and all that. Yeah. He's going to get, that's the thing with the first round pick. He's going to get every opportunity.
Well, that's the thing. He will get more opportunities than most because, let's face it, you kind of get a little egg on your face if it doesn't work out.
Right.
So he does have that going for him, but Sullivan's not going to care. He is not tied into him. And Sullivan's not going to be afraid to stand up to Drury. This is Mike Sullivan. Like there's no issue there. So I feel like it's a clean slate, and whatever he sees, he sees. I don't think it's going to matter about the other stuff. In the past, I think it has mattered. I'm not sure it will matter with Mike Sullivan.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think with Drury too, listen, I know he was in the organization, but he wasn't the GM. So Brendan Othman technically is not his guy, even though he was in the organization. So, and listen, he's had no qualms about if he doesn't think a guy is a long-term fit, especially when it comes time to pay them or don't pay them.
Right.
Keandre Miller, Capo Caco, Hedl to an extent.
I would say he's been overly decisive about that. Like I caught up with Capo last year. And he had a lot of things going on in New York. And when he left, he actually told me, he said, I had to sell my apartment. Like he was talking about just daily struggles moving to Seattle, but he ultimately liked Seattle a lot better because he found line mates there, which was a problem. And look at what Kako would, even good prospect guys like me and others didn't realize was he was getting a lot of stretch passes overseas, and he had to be near the net to score, but he couldn't get to the net because he wasn't fast enough at the beginning. So there was this gap in the ice where he couldn't get to. If he's around the net, he's scoring every time. He's got great hands.
Yeah.
But that's the trick, is you got to get other line mates to get him to the net. So guys like Matty Beniers and such, Shane Wright, those guys are able to do that with him. So he's going to do better there. He's not a star, but he's a good, hardworking player who, let's face it, the Rangers miss his puck possession. Like he was a good puck possession guy.
Yeah. And the thing too, I mean, now we're going down.
I know,
going down the we're going down the Kako tunnel. But sure, he's got a second line. He got a second line opportunity in Seattle. Produced pretty well. Did a good job. Finished strong with them.
Played in the Four Nations.
Played in the Four Nations. Played on the power play with them, so more power play time. So I think we will see who he is ultimately. There is still a contingent out there, and I don't disagree with them that feel, you know what, he's good. He's responsible defensively, good puck possession guy. Maybe he'll be a 40-point guy. Boy, that sounds like a third line winger to me, which is what he was with the Rangers for the most part. So,
but he gets a chance in Seattle, and this is an Olympic year. So if there's ever a year he's going to blossom, it's going to be this year, because he really wants to be on that Olympic team and made no bones about telling me that.
Right. So here's another guy, and talk about Finnish players that, want to play in the Olympics, trying to establish themselves in the NHL. It seems, and we'll see once training camp starts, but it seems that the Ranger management is really sold on Juuso Parssinen, a guy who, I think there's tremendous skill there. I don't know that I see to compete on a regular enough basis. To me, the numbers that stand out the most about Parssinen from last year was Rangers acquire him. He played 11 games. He was a healthy scratch in 12 games.
Right.
I know it's a different coach.
No, but that I even tweeted about it. I was just like, what's going on? Like, you got this guy, now you don't even want to play him. Right. That was weird. And honestly, I think he's kind of an enigma. I think that's a challenge now for Mike Sullivan, because there is a basis there where you could say, hey, he could be successful at the NHL level. And then to me, it's like, I don't know. I know young fans may not understand this, but this is kind of like an Animal House John Belushi situation on each shoulder. This one says he can make it. This one says he can't.
Yeah.
And it's like, it could go either way.
Yeah. But I mean, right now, as they set up, to me, Johnny Brodzinski is what I call the safety net.
Right.
Like, I think they would prefer if he starts the season, he's the 13th forward,
right?
Because he's the jack of all trades, third line, fourth line, even if needed in the top six for a little bit here and there. I think they would prefer to keep him in that role. I think Parsonen's going to get every chance to be that third line center.
He is.
And I just don't feel it. I don't
feel it either, if I'm being honest, but I always try and give these guys a chance, especially guys who have never really had a chance in the NHL. But yeah, that's who I think they're hoping for. And we'll see. Like, Sullivan's done some really good work, especially with Finnish players. So we'll see.
Yeah. So we mentioned earlier, so now I'm backtracking because that's more training camp and preseason. We've got the rookie camp coming up this week. And as I mentioned, the 2 games against the Flyers. Outside of Perreault, is there somebody that, will be among that Ranger rookie group, maybe Noah Laba, somebody that stands out where you say, yeah, I want to see what this guy's got. He's not NHL ready yet, but I want to see where he's developing or where he's at or how far away he is.
I don't have that roster. Do you have that roster handy?
I don't have the official roster, but I'm going by figuring, Noah.
I mean, I don't know if Fortescue would be there because of college.
No, the college kids won't be there.
So he won't be there. It's a good question. I mean, Noah Laba is kind of like, I'm not thrilled with Noah Laba.
See, so, I think he might be of their center prospects. And we just wrote a story on this the other day saying, that depth, behind the NHL centers is not great. And if Parssinen doesn't hit, it's even thinner, and it even thins out at the NHL level. But I think Laba really projects one day as a third line center. I think question is
that's what he's going to make it as. I've seen him play in college. I wasn't thrilled. So I don't really, I don't think about him the same way.
Yeah.
Like some of the other guys that are a little bit older, I guess McConnell Barker is a guy that I thought could make it in the NHL. And then last year kind of disappointed me. So I think he would be a guy that you would look at because he's also a center.
Right.
And he looked good in juniors. Like, he was a good, decent, like I would say, 40, 45 point potential prospect. And I just haven't seen it out of him.
Yeah, he was a rookie pro last year. I think he had 7 or 8 goals and, got consistent playing time, stayed healthy, down at Hartford. Again, young kid. We'll see.
Adam Spore has been disappointing so far.
So he's another kid. He was so young when he turned pro, He
was good a couple years. Like, this is the funny thing, and this happens in the prospect world a lot. It happened with James Higgins, and I think some people were wrong about that. I love James Higgins, just to put that on the record. But with Sikora, I think he looked better like a year and a half ago than he looked last year, even though he got more points. I think he looked like more suited to a guy that was going to have like this fast track to the NHL. Now that has slowed down, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure the Rangers don't know why either. Right. So he's another guy that really could, do himself a favor and have a, if he plays both games, do really well, because even though he's 5'10", I feel like he could play bigger than that. And so I don't worry about him playing at a higher pro level. I just don't know where the offense is now. And so that's the thing. If he doesn't have much offense, then he's going to have a hard time finding a spot. He's not really a fourth liner. He's, a top 9 kind of guy. So he could really benefit from having a good series if he's going to play in both games, because I feel like eyes are on him. Like he's running out of time.
Right. So jumping ahead to the Rangers, and just because you mentioned he's in your mind, he's not a fourth liner and all that.
There is one more guy I can mention because I'd forgotten, Maxim Barbashev.
Yep.
I actually think he will take a little time because he's really kind of like jumped around, like went from the Q, went to the AHL, ECHL, back to the AHL. He could play a scrappy kind of energy kind of role. And so I think keep an eye on him. He would be a guy that in this kind of game could shine because he's going to want to get his name out there. So he's another one.
So real quickly, around the NHL roster, do you think that it's etched in stone, or is it maybe nothing's etched in stone because it's a new coaching staff and everything? But you mentioned the fourth line before. You think it's Edstrom, Carrick, Rempe until they prove that it can't be, or that somebody doesn't deserve an opportunity?
I was at the Jets game yesterday. And I saw those two guys,
yes,
Rempe and Edstrom, with another guy, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
Now, so
hey, speaking of needing a center,
yeah. So, but I do think that's pretty set, and I think Rempe. I know some fans this will drive them crazy, but I think he kind of got the short end of the stick at times last year. He just needs consistent play. I say about a year and a half ago, I interviewed a bunch of his teammates in Seattle and asked about him, and they all had positive things to say. It's not like he's going to be a 20-goal scorer or anything like that, but it's like, hey, this guy could play at pace. He's tough, and occasionally will pot you a goal here and there. And I still think that's what he'll do. And I do think he's a definition of an energy guy, and I think Sullivan will love him because he does pump up the team when he plays. And I think when he didn't play, I think the team sagged in games that I saw. So, and Edstrom's kind of like one of these guys that he's okay, but he's not going to hurt you.
Right. And, so I think he was a little bit better than most people expected. Yes. I mean, Laviolette loved him. He played him every game until he got hurt.
Yeah. But Laviolette also, once Laviolette's one of those coaches. Sullivan's not like this. Laviolette's kind of like Tortorella in the sense that he'll play you if you're not a problem. You might not be great. You might not be terrible. But if you're not a problem in his eyes, he'll leave you alone.
Edstrom's not a problem.
No.
Right. He is Russ Cohen from Sportsology. Tell the fans about Overtime Winners, your latest book.
Yeah, Game Winners.
I'm sorry, Game Winners.
It's all right. It's fine. There are overtime winners in there, like Sidney Crosby in the first Winter Classic. Yeah, it's a game. It's a book on game winners. We ranked 30 and then 50. Sorry, we ranked 50 of them, and then we also had some honorable mentions. With the passing of Ken Dryden, we do have the 79 Stanley Cup in there. Sorry, Ranger fans. I was 16. I was kind of upset, but I didn't expect them to win that. I didn't. I was just happy they were there. So now my cat is acting up. But
acting up because angry Jet fan? That's
angry Jet fan, angry
Met fan.
She hasn't seen much winning, maybe with the Mets. But anyhow, yeah, there's some great goals in there. We also rank the goals. So like myself and Matthew Blittner, my co-author, we put them on a scale and talk about the goal and give our analysis on it, which I think is fun. There's some really old ones, clearly, that there are no video of, that we kind of, went back and kind of talked about. And so it's fun. It really does bridge the gap from like really old time hockey to hockey you've been watching for a long time. So it was a labor of love, like every other book. So we hope that you'll read it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amazon
is it.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
That's the way to go.
And you know what? Since we're doing some plugs, I know you have a string of some Ranger books that you wrote as well that fans can also purchase on Amazon.
Yeah, 100 Ranger Greats is out of print currently.
Okay.
But if you email me, I've got a few, not too many. They're used though. Like that's the only way I can get them because right now they are out of print. But we have 100 things Ranger fans should know or do before they die, and that book does very well. Yeah. And I wrote that with Adam Rader, and that's with Triumph. You could find that everywhere, Barnes and Noble, every bookstore. Yep. And yeah, that one still has a lot of stuff. We talked about Tex in there. We're like, hey, go visit his grave. That's one of the things. So there's a lot of fun anecdotal things in there, and really we kind of go deep with some of the Ranger stuff. So it was fun to write that.
Awesome. Well, he's Rex. Rex. Oh my God, because you said Tex Rickard. It's not Tex Rickard. It's not Rex Ryan. It is Russ Cohen from Sportsology. Thank you so much for a few minutes today and giving us kind of a little preview heading into rookie camp and training camp and what we can expect from the kids this season. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks.